The butter in your refrigerator right now has 3 ingredients, not 2, 3, cream, salt, and something called natural flavoring. Go check that right now before I say another word. Walk to your refrigerator, pull out the butter, flip it over. If you see the words natural flavoring on that label, and most of you will, ask yourself one question. What is a flavor chemist doing in a product this simple? Butter has had exactly 2 possible ingredients for 4,000 years, cream and maybe salt. No flavor chemist required, no third ingredient, just cream churned until it becomes butter, the way it always was. The way your grandmother bought it. The way her grandmother made it before there was a grocery store to buy it from at all. So why does the butter on your counter need a laboratory to taste like butter? My name is Barbara Cole. I spent 35 years inspecting food products at manufacturing plants across this country. The butter aisle bothered me more than almost any other category, not because the gap is complicated, because it's so simple it should be impossible to hide. 2 ingredients, and yet here we are, standing in an aisle full of products that have decided 2 ingredients wasn't enough. Before I walk you through the brands, I need to show you how the gap works. Once you understand it, every brand on this list makes complete sense. I'll get there in a moment. But here's what I want you to sit with right now. Some of the brands on tonight's avoid list are real butter. They meet the legal definition. They just cut a corner so specific and so quiet that most people never find it. And some of them aren't legally butter at all, water and oil wearing butter's name because butter is worth more on a label than what's actually inside. 2 different problems, 1 butter aisle. The label is the only thing telling you which is which, designed so that most people never look. 8 brands tonight, 3 that are actually real butter. If this is the kind of thing you want to know before you shop, the label reading, the sourcing gaps, the things that never make it onto the front of the package, stick around. There's more where this came from. Let's start at the bottom. 2 things. Learn both now and every brand on this list becomes obvious. The first is the legal floor. Federal law requires at least 80% milk fat for a product to be legally sold as butter. That's the minimum, not the goal. European butter sits at 82 to 84%. Premium American butter hits 83 to 85%. Most grocery store butter hits exactly 80% and stops. Not because that's the quality standard they're proud of. Because that's the minimum that lets them print the word butter on the box, charge butter prices, and move on without anyone asking questions. The second is the cream problem, and this is the one that explains the flavor chemist. Real butter from pastured cows has a natural deep golden color and a complex, slightly grassy flavor that comes directly from beta-carotene in the grass the cows eat. It's not added, it's not manufactured. It's what happens when a cow eats what a cow evolved to eat, and the cream carries that naturally into the butter. Grain-fed cows produce cream that is nearly white and nearly tasteless. Not because something went wrong, because grain doesn't produce beta-carotene the way grass does. Rather than pay 40% more for grass-fed cream, some manufacturers pay a flavor house to manufacture the taste of real butter and add it back in. The FDA permits this under one label term, natural flavoring. The product is technically legal. The label says butter. What it doesn't say is that the flavor was engineered in a laboratory because the cream couldn't produce it on its own. That's the gap. 80% cheap cream plus manufactured flavor equals legal butter. Flip your package before we look at the first brand. If you see natural flavoring on that label, now you know exactly what it means and exactly why it's there. Founded 1921 as a Minnesota dairy cooperative, the largest butter brand in America by volume by over a century of farm imagery, wholesome positioning, and genuine cooperative history. The farmers do own this company. That part is real, and I want to be fair about it. This isn't a corporation that bought a heritage brand and kept the packaging. The cooperative structure is legitimate and has been from the beginning. What changed is the scale. A cooperative that started with regional farmers pooling local cream now sources from hundreds of industrial dairies across the country. Grain-fed cows, a commodity supply chain that moves at a volume regional sourcing could never sustain. And cream, consistent, industrial, commodity cream, too bland to stand on its own without help. The ingredient list shows you exactly where that decision landed. Cream, salt, natural flavoring. 3 ingredients in a 2-ingredient product. There's also a documented legal record worth knowing. Land O'Lakes was named in a 2018 class action lawsuit alleging a conspiracy with other dairy cooperatives to artificially reduce milk supply and inflate butter and cheese prices. That lawsuit was certified as a class action. I want to be precise. That is an allegation, not a criminal conviction, but it's a public record about the largest butter brand in the country, and you should know it exists. A century of cooperative farming built on the idea that farmers and consumers deserved better than industrial dairy. And the solution to bland cream wasn't better sourcing. It was a flavor chemist. That gap between the founding principle and the current ingredient list is exactly the kind of thing I spent 35 years trained to find. Founded 1911 in California. Mountain dairy imagery, clean packaging, a price point that sits just below premium, designed to feel like a quality-conscious choice without fully committing to one. The marketing line, and I want you to hear this carefully, is the butter without equal. Ingredient list: cream, salt, natural flavoring, milk fat content, exactly 80%, the legal minimum. Not a single point above it, not a point below it. Precisely at the floor and nowhere else. Straight from the fridge, this butter resists the knife in a way that feels slightly wrong. Not the firm, clean resistance of a high-fat butter, but a drag that tells you moisture is doing more work than fat before you've tasted anything. When it finally moves, it doesn't glide. It pulls. The flavor follows the same logic. Present but absent, inoffensive and forgettable. Nothing there worth noticing, nothing there worth remembering. Butter is supposed to taste like something. This one needed a flavor chemist to taste like itself, and the ingredient list tells you exactly what kind. The butter without equal. I've read a lot of labels in 35 years. I'd call it the butter without distinction. Check this one yourself because the evidence is right there in the same dairy case at the same store. No lab required, no sourcing research needed. Great Value Milk, Walmart's own brand, carries a no RBST pledge right on the label. RBST is a synthetic growth hormone injected into dairy cows to force higher milk production than their biology would naturally allow. It's banned in the European Union, Canada, Australia, and the United Kingdom. In the United States, it remains legal. Walmart looked at that and decided their Great Value Milk customers deserved to know whether it was used. They made the commitment and put it on the label. Great Value butter carries no equivalent commitment. Same brand name, same dairy case, same store. A different standard applied to the product sitting 2 feet away from the milk with the pledge on it. A shopper who carefully selects the RBST-free milk and then reaches for the butter from the same shelf may not realize those 2 products were made under entirely different sourcing rules. Walmart made the commitment for one and chose not to extend it to the other. You can verify this yourself next time you're standing in that aisle. That's the cleanest label reading lesson in tonight's entire video, because the evidence is right there in the same refrigerator section, no research required. USDA Organic Certified. That certification is real. No synthetic pesticides, no added growth hormones. I'm not going to dismiss it or pretend it means nothing. Organic certification has a legal definition and Horizon meets it. But here's what that definition doesn't include, and this is where $8 to $9 a pound becomes a gap worth understanding clearly. Organic doesn't mean pastured. It doesn't mean the cows ate grass. It doesn't mean the cream has the natural golden color or the complex flavor that comes from a cow eating what it evolved to eat. Horizon, owned by Danone, sources from large-scale organic operations where cows may eat certified organic grain in confined settings. Organic grain, but grain, not grass, and the cream reflects that difference directly. At $8 to $9 a pound, the consumer is paying for the verified absence of synthetic pesticides and added hormones, both real things. Neither of them the pastoral farming experience the packaging suggests. The unhurried cows, the green fields, the image of something that costs this much because it was made carefully from something genuinely better. Organic is a real certification with a real legal definition. That definition doesn't include a single word about whether the cow ever stood in a field. At $9 a pound, that's worth knowing before you reach for it. This is where the category shifts entirely, and I want to name that shift directly so there's no confusion about what we're looking at from here. Everything above this line on tonight's list is real butter. It meets the 80% milk fat legal definition. The problems are about cream quality and flavor chemistry. Corners cut on sourcing, compensated for with a chemist. Starting here, we're looking at something categorically different. Country crock plant butter is not legally butter. Congress defined butter in 1923. It comes from cream. Country crock plant butter contains no cream whatsoever. It's a blend of palm oil, palm kernel oil, canola oil, and water, wearing the word butter on the front of the package because butter is a more appealing word than vegetable oil spread. Two separate class action lawsuits worth knowing. The first alleged the made with olive oil version was deceptively labeled. Olive oil was the fourth most predominant ingredient in the formula. The bulk of the product built from cheaper oils the front label doesn't mention. The second alleged the plant-based version was essentially margarine marketed as something fundamentally healthier. Both are allegations, neither a final court finding. Country Crock has denied both. In June 2025, the American Butter Institute filed a formal complaint with the FDA arguing Country Crock's dairy-free butter label violates federal standards because butter is legally a dairy product and cannot by definition be dairy-free. That complaint is currently pending. The front of the package says butter. The ingredient list says palm oil, palm kernel oil, canola oil, water. The label is counting on most people stopping before they turn it over. The name is the admission, right there in large print on the front of the package. I can't believe it's not butter. The disclosure is technically present and has been there the whole time. The word butter in bold at the end of the name is what the brain locks onto, and the marketing department has understood that for decades. The "I can't believe it's not" part functions as invisible fine print, even when it's the largest text on the label. Built on water and vegetable oils, no cream, not legally butter by any definition. The mouthfeel is wrong in a way that's hard to name until you've tasted real butter next to it. A thinness, a coating that doesn't clear, a flavor that disappears too quickly because there's no fat content to carry it anywhere. The cooking spray version has a documented lawsuit worth knowing separately. The FDA allows products to list 0 calories per serving when a single serving is defined as a fraction of a second spray containing fewer than 5 calories. Real-world use in an actual kitchen is nothing like a fraction of a second. A full bottle contains approximately 700 calories and 80 grams of fat. Consumers filed suit arguing the 0-calorie claim was materially misleading given how the product is actually used. That case proceeded in federal court. The name tells you it isn't butter. The label bets you won't fully register what the name is actually saying. A 31% vegetable oil spread, soybean oil, palm kernel oil, and palm oil as primary ingredients, artificial preservatives and artificial flavoring throughout. Not butter, not close to butter by any legal or practical measure. The documented history is specific, and I'm going to give it to you plainly. Bluebonnet contained partially hydrogenated soybean oil, the primary dietary source of industrial trans fats, for decades, not years, decades. The FDA eventually mandated a ban on trans fats across the entire American food industry, and Bluebonnet reformulated when the law required it, not before the requirement, not in anticipation of it, after. A brand that carried a known problematic ingredient for decades and changed its formula only when legally compelled tells you something specific and unambiguous about where product quality sits relative to other priorities. The record is public and the sequence is clear. 27% vegetable oil spread. Read that number once more before we move on. 27%. At 27% fat, This product doesn't credibly qualify as anything in the butter category by any standard, regulatory, practical, or otherwise. Not margarine. Not a meaningful spread by any definition. 70% of that tub is purified water. No cream, no dairy of any kind present in the formula. Priced at roughly $3.97 for 45 ounces. It lands flat on the tongue and leaves a coating that doesn't clear. That's what happens when oil and water don't have enough fat content to bind properly. The oil just sits there because nothing in the formula creates the cohesion that real butter or even a decent margarine produces naturally. You are buying a tub that is mostly water with a label implying otherwise at every opportunity the packaging provides. That is the clearest example I have encountered in 35 years of what marketing can do when a product cannot do it for itself. Before the good list, stop here for one moment. Look at what tonight's avoid list actually contains. Some of those brands are real butter. They hit 80% milk fat. They meet the legal definition. They just used flavor chemistry to compensate for cream that couldn't stand on its own. That's a sourcing corner cut wearing a label that implies otherwise. And some of those brands aren't butter at all. Water and oil using the word butter because butter is worth more on a label than the truth about what's inside. Two completely different problems sitting in the same aisle in similar packaging, both counting on the same assumptions, say, that you won't flip the package over. Here's what the industry will tell you when you ask why the good list is so short. Real butter from pastured cows costs too much. Clean sourcing isn't commercially viable at the scale American grocery demands. The premium is the price you pay for quality, and most consumers won't pay it. Hold that excuse. It's about to fall apart in one price comparison. Number 3, Organic Valley Pasture, butter farmer-owned cooperative, not a corporate holding company with farmers as suppliers. The people making this butter own the company making it. Pastured cows eating grass, not organic grain in confined settings. 2 ingredients, cream and salt. Approximately 84% milk fat, above the legal floor and above most American butters on the same shelf. This is the honest version of what Horizon Organic implies it is. Same USDA organic certification. The same green imagery on the packaging. Plus, the cows actually ate the grass that the organic certification doesn't require, but this brand delivers anyway. That's the difference between a label that implies something and a product that actually delivers it. Number 2, Vital Farms pasture-raised butter. Sourced from small family farms. 90% grass-fed cows. 83 to 85% milk fat above the floor. And you feel that difference in a hot pan and on anything warm enough to melt it slightly. 2 ingredients, cream and salt. The company publishes specific farm conditions on their website, not a general sourcing philosophy, actual farm information a buyer can read before they decide. At around $7 a pound, it isn't the cheapest option on this list, but the ingredient list is what butter's ingredient list has always been. 2 items, nothing compensating for anything removed, nothing added to rescue cream that couldn't rescue itself. Number 1, Kerrygold Pure Irish Butter. Made in Ireland from cows that graze on open pasture up to 312 days a year. Ireland's climate allows year-round grass growth that most American dairy regions simply cannot sustain. The land stays green, the cows eat what they evolved to eat, and the cream carries that directly into the butter without any assistance from a flavor chemist. Deep, natural golden color from beta-carotene in the grass. No artificial coloring, no flavor chemistry, no third ingredient. 2 ingredients, cream and salt. 82% milk fat. The gold you see in the wrapper is what grain-fed cream cannot produce on its own, and what the natural flavoring on Land O'Lakes is hired every single day to replicate. Now here's the line I need you to hear before we close tonight. Kerrygold sits on the same grocery shelf as Land O'Lakes. It is priced comparably, same aisle, similar price point. 2 ingredient label on one side and 3 on the other. The industry told you that real butter from pastured cows costs too much to produce at commercial scale. Kerrygold disproves that in a single price comparison, you can run yourself the next time you're standing in the dairy case. They're not paying more, they're choosing differently. The excuse the rest of the aisle is hiding behind doesn't hold. And the Kerrygold label proves it every time someone takes 10 seconds to compare. 2 tests. Do them tonight with whatever is in your kitchen right now. The ingredient check. Flip the package, count the ingredients. Cream and maybe salt. That's butter. Natural flavoring as a third ingredient means the cream needed a chemist to taste like cream. Water or vegetable oil listed first means you're not holding butter at all. You're holding a spread that decided butter was a better word for the front of the package than the truth about what's inside. The melt test. Put a tablespoon of your butter in a pan on low heat and watch what happens. Don't rush it. Real butter from pastured cream melts slowly into a rich golden liquid. Milk solids drifting toward the edges of the pan, turning amber, a faint nutty smell rising off the surface. That golden color is beta-carotene from grass, through the cow, through the cream, through the churn, into your pan. Commodity butter from grain-fed cows melts pale, almost colorless, thin in the pan in a way that's hard to name until you've seen the other one right next to it. That pale, colorless result is exactly what the flavor chemist was hired to hide on the label. The pan shows you what the package was designed to cover. The color doesn't lie, and neither does the grass it came from. 2 ingredients, cream and maybe salt. That is the entire job description for butter, and it has been for 4,000 years. 3 brands on this list still do it that way. Most of what's in that aisle is either compensating for cream that wasn't good enough, or it isn't butter at all. The label will tell you which is which if you flip it over. The pan will confirm it in 60 seconds on your own stove. Tell me in the comments what your butter's ingredient list says right now. I read every one of them. And if someone in your life is buying from the avoid list, this takes 10 seconds to share and might change what ends up in their refrigerator next week. Read the label. That's all I ever did.